Are you guys ready?
Let's do this.
Let's start the show.
Enjoy the show. Enjoy the show. Enjoy the show. Lights, camera, action.
All right, episode 12. We did this one on a Tuesday because it is Enrique's birthday Thursday, as well as Misha's. Of course, you can't forget her. Born on the same day, and they're dating.
For real.
It's kind of weird, right?
Not making this up.
Damn. All right.
They said it was cool the first year or two.
Yeah, until you don't get your own birthday.
And then it's like, all right, is this my day or is it her day? Or
What year is it? Is it the odd year or the even year? Which one do I get?
So,
but again, a special shout out to Enrique and the guys over at the Because You Watch podcast and the All Bad podcast for hosting us last week and for having Brandon on to do your first episode. That was definitely fun to listen to. And again, yeah, thank you so much for that, Brandon. You've been a busy guy this week.
I've been all over the pods lately.
Yeah, you did 2 podcasts on Sunday, and you're doing one on Tuesday.
And we did ours on Thursday last week too.
Yeah.
This is my 4th podcast in a week.
Man, dude, you got to be tired of talking.
Wow.
I'm really tired of
Brandon's
talking.
got a lot to say.
I want to start off this podcast with a question for you guys, because now that the NFL, well, as of last season, they allowed for touchdown celebrations to happen.
Yeah.
And earlier today, I was listening to the hilarious Pat McAfee show, and he was going over the celebration that never happened, and it was hilarious. He was basically going to pull out a flag, make it disappear in his hand. Then when the referee throws the yellow flag, he was going to take that and make that disappear as like a magic trick, and I thought that was hilarious. But if you guys had your football celebration, what are you going with? The classic handshake, you celebrating?
Dude, come on. You know.
What?
You know.
Okay. Well, that's assuming that I'm there with you.
Oh.
But if you're by
I
yourself.
didn't realize that we weren't doing that in this assumption. Okay. Wow. This is weird now.
See, what are you going to do now?
Oh.
See, in my head, I'm thinking I'm going with like a funky chicken hybrid.
Funky chicken hybrid.
Yeah, like doing a funky chicken.
You ever seen the movie Hitch?
Yeah.
I'm going with that dance.
What,
Basically everything that Will Smith tells him not to do.
You rolling the dice too much?
Yep, all of it.
Q-tips
No,
and
that's
everything?
that's
knocked up.
knocked up. Thank you.
Oh,
Seth Rogen.
That's my fault.
No, that's
Doing
good.
the dice
Same
too.
concept, same movements.
I mean,
But I probably
Seth
hit him
Rogen,
with something like that.
Kevin James, they kind of look like.
I don't have one really good that's lined up off the top of my head, but if I were, I definitely would want to get my teammates involved.
Brandon went hit with a, I don't know, man.
That's what I do. Just do the shoulder shrug.
Shoulder shrug.
No, I definitely would want to get the teammates involved, and we definitely have to choreograph it ahead
I don't know.
of time.
I've loved some of them, man, like the home run derby ones, the table tennis.
Yeah. I don't know. I might also just be a class act and just go for handshakes. Down the line, everyone gets a solid
Nice and
handshake.
firm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would want to make it like something I do every time I get the touchdown, though. I'm not mixing it up every single time.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh,
Fuck
my
you,
goodness.
Brandon.
Jesus.
Hey.
Okay, so for you listening, the Padres called up Luis Urias today, and we've been watching the Padre game in the background. We're going into the top of the 9th. Jordan Nix is pitched.
Jacob Nix
has pitched a complete game, and it was
Close
0-2 Padres, and Brandon jinxed it beforehand.
He said he's gonna get the no-hit shutout. That's what he said. And now
I didn't say
it's
no hit
2-1.
shutout, but he's.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The complete
He's
game
gonna
shutout.
Complete game shutout.
Complete game shutout. So
They got to let him stay in there.
no way,
Now
man.
he gives
Get
up
him
the
out
home
of there.
run.
Get
Now
him
he gives
out.
up the home run.
Thank you.
Man,
Yes, please.
he only threw 79 pitches.
I mean, phenomenal effort by him tonight. He looked amazing. Hopefully, we can come out and close this out and get him that win. That's still a solid outing.
It's definitely a solid outing. It would
definitely
just been
a solid
nice
outing.
to see him go the complete game.
Oh, absolutely. It
and
always
get
is.
the win.
I'd still like to let him. I'd still give it to him.
Oh man.
Just the way this game doesn't matter if they necessarily win or lose. It's more about developing the players. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's. I mean, that's a common move though. You give up a home run in the ninth, you're out. That's. I mean,
that's true.
Yeah,
that's true
it's
across the
pretty
board.
standard.
That's consistent.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was saying, I've loved all of the celebrations. I enjoy it. I like how they are family friendly and they're clever. So I
a
mean,
lot of them are very clever.
maybe next week I'll have a better answer for you. I'll let you know. But that was a good one. I've thoroughly enjoyed. I mean, I think it was the Steelers who had very thorough touchdown celebrations.
Steelers and the Vikings.
The
did a
Vikings,
lot
yeah,
of,
that was the other team.
a lot of choreographed ones that were entertaining.
I think the Eagles had a pretty good one too last year, didn't they?
Yeah, there was so many, man. I was watching the highlight reel.
Did somebody do the electric slide for one of them, or I could have
The
swore like
electric
the whole
boogie?
the
Maybe.
whole team.
Maybe it would be classic if the Eagles came out next year and they did that Philly special as one of their touchdown celebrations. That'd be pretty funny.
clever.
But
Right.
as we were saying, watching the Padre game, I think we're going to touch on a lot of what the Padres have going on and what their future looks like at the end of the podcast. We want to touch on this Manu Ginobili retirement thing, just to give him a little shout out. 16 years in a league with one team. That's pretty
incredible.
amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that there's a lot of different opinions about Manu Ginobili as far as is he a Hall of Famer, which I obviously think that he is. And I think it's hard to look at who the player is now versus 16 years ago, who they used to be. I mean, for us, we were 10 years old when he first came into the league. And there's so much talent there, and in the backside of his career, he decided to run the second team. That was his job. Like, he was a career sixth man, but he did it better than anybody else. And not to mention, I mean, he was probably just as important to that team as Tim Duncan. I mean, they both came up relatively close together, and they ran each unit like they were their own.
Yeah, and he was kind of the last, pillar to fall in that Spurs team.
Yeah. And they got Tony Parker gone. He's playing with
Yep.
Charlotte.
Yeah, and as you said, Tim Duncan is gone, obviously, and Kawhi now, and it kind of puts the Spurs at an interesting spot. I know we're all kind of on the fence. Brandon more on the upside, Ryan maybe more on the downside of the Spurs. But what are you guys thinking next year's looking like for them?
I don't think they're a playoff team.
I definitely think they're a playoff team. They were a playoff team without Kawhi Leonard last year, and now they're adding DeMar DeRozan to that offense.
Yeah, the only thing you're forgetting is King James is in Los Angeles.
Yeah, that's one team though.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's I mean,
just because the Lakers have a chance of making the playoffs doesn't mean that all the other teams are bad.
no. Well, I think Popovich obviously gives them an edge over borderline teams. I think that you look at a team like the Clippers, who, Doc Rivers, taking nothing away from him, he's a phenomenal coach, but he's not Greg Popovich.
Yeah,
Popovich will put
Popovich-
that team in a position to win.
And that's why I'm not writing them off.
No,
I think
I don't.
they're still.
I don't personally think that they're. I won't sit here and say right now they're out, but they would be a bubble 8 seed for me, or as of right now. When the year starts, we can have the conversation again, see how they look. But looking at them on paper and having DeMar DeRozan coming in there and being the new face of that franchise, their team has always run through the forward position, and it's going to be a whole new look for them. So I feel like giving them a year to figure out the new face of their franchise, I don't think it's a loss if they miss the playoffs. I think it's a huge win if they make the playoffs. I don't think that they're that far off. They draft well, they recruit well. I mean, it's not recruit, they scout well. They're always bringing in young talent. I can't remember, Brandon probably knows what his name is, but the point guard on their team now, who was a rookie.
Is it DeJounte Murray?
Yeah, he played excellent last year. So, maybe the combination of Murray and DeRozan flourishes, and we're looking at a team that's not just an 8 seed, but a 6 seed. I just think there's so many question marks surrounding them now because they've lost the pillars, all 4 of them, all within the last 2 years.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Definitely. I mean, anytime you lose some essential pieces to a team, but that team needed when you have a culture like the Spurs, they're always going to be in it. And so while I'm not saying they're going to go to the NBA Finals this year, I think this team could be looking at anywhere between 6 to 8 seed. I'm putting them in that range, but don't think they're going to make it out of the first round, but I do think they're making the playoffs. So I wouldn't say they're necessarily rebuilding right now. I think a retool might be a better description of what the team is.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
And I think last year, I think they were the best mid-range team of the game, and they just added the best mid-range player in the league, onto their team. So I think they've made smart decisions, and I trust their system, and I feel like they're still going to be in the mix. I think people are writing them off a little bit too quickly.
I think the only issue that I have with it, when I'm looking at the teams now that are coming out of the West.
Oh, it's a stacked West.
Yeah,
There's no doubt.
It's hard to look at a team like, Portland and say that Portland as of right now, on paper, so this is all before we start the year, Portland on paper to me is a better team
You think so?
than the Spurs. But Portland doesn't have Greg Popovich. Another team that you look at, Minnesota Timberwolves, they have a stacked lineup as well. The Oklahoma City Thunder, coming out now minus Carmelo Anthony, which probably helps them more than anything. And then New Orleans Pelicans. I think people are giving them a lot of credit, but
I think they took a step back.
I think they took a huge step back with losing Rondo.
I think Portland's going to take a step back too this year. Those are my two teams that were in the playoffs last year that are probably not going to make it this year.
And then I feel like a lot of teams are kind of riding off the Lakers as not being like a potential like.
Well, I consider them a fringe playoff team. I think you go from a team that won 35 games to winning. You're going to project them to win 50 games.
I would project them to be at least a 5 seed.
I think you're giving too much love to that team. They lost a lot of players.
Dude.
Yeah, but they
LeBron
added
James.
the number.
I know they added the best
player.
player. I know there's only so much one man can do, though.
Look what he did with Cleveland last year.
That team in Cleveland last year was the worst team that he's taken to a finals.
I understand, and this Lakers team is not much better.
I don't know, man.
I would say they have a lot more talent.
I would say they have a lot more
They
talent.
lost Julius Randle. They lost Brooke Lopez. They lost. Isaiah Thomas, he's not like a huge casualty. I don't have a whole list in front of me, but those are 3 guys I'm listing off the top of my head.
Yeah.
And you
those are
supplement
solid
them
players.
with like guys that don't seem like they match up well.
But they also
it's like you added good puzzle pieces, but they don't mix together.
But they also kept Caldwell Pope.
They did, and he's
That
good.
was a huge re-sign
KCP.
for them. They also, have Brandon Ingram, who they can match with LeBron James. Kyle Kuzma, in my opinion, is a far better power forward. He at least has a higher ceiling than Julius Randle. Julius Randle he played the most minutes on that team last year, and that's what made him the highest scoring player. I don't think that makes him a better player than anyone on that roster. I feel like this gives them more of an opportunity to flourish. But I have them as a 5 seed. I know that people have projected them as an 8 or possibly a bubble playoff team, but I really do think that a lot of people are undervaluing what LeBron James brings to an organization in a culture of winning. It's the same argument with Greg Popovich.
Yeah, certainly. No, certainly. And I just think jumping from 35 wins or whatever they were at last year to 50 is a huge jump.
Miami.
It's a huge jump. But he also added, a Chris Bosh, too, who was a stud at the time.
And who was hurt a lot of the first year.
But he still was a stud for him.
I mean that's picking apart different aspects. You look at the player and what he's done. He went back to Cleveland. Obviously, they had the addition of Kevin Love and Kyrie
I'm
Irving.
not saying they're not going to make the playoffs. I'm saying they're a fringe playoff team. They're not like – I think you're saying a 5, so that means they're going to jump up 20 games?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a
huge
lot of wins for one guy to add to a team.
Yeah, but if anybody could do it, that would be the guy that does it.
We're not talking about a Steph Curry who's always played with all-stars surrounding him. We're not talking about a Kawhi Leonard who had a career that started with Tim Duncan, still playing at an elite level. We're talking about LeBron James, who has constantly gone back and forth to different teams and has seen success with each team that he's gone to.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, it'll definitely be interesting to see how it plays out once the season starts, barring injury and how well people mesh together.
Ultimately, it's going to the Warriors, though, so it's an irrelevant conversation.
Yeah, they're the top team. Nobody's touching them.
Yeah, it'll definitely interesting. Kirby Yates looks like he's about to get this save. I don't want to, he should have got that strike 3 call right there if Austin Hedges can squeeze a baseball. Supposedly the best
Wow.
defensive catcher in baseball, huh, Brandon? No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, the metrics don't lie.
Yeah. But, yeah, we'll keep you updated once they finally seal this thing off. Fingers crossed on that. On Sunday, we had our fantasy football draft. As we said, Brandon and I did a little special podcast with our friend DJ just to go over, how exciting the draft is and, certain things of the nuances that go with the draft, how you draft, all that kind of stuff. Overall, what do you guys think of your drafts individually?
I'm confident with mine. I made it apparent that I wanted to load up with running backs this year. Running backs get the bulk of the carries. It's important to have a guy on your team that's not splitting carries with a ton of different people. And if he is, I drafted Alvin Kamara in the first round, and he does, after the first 4 games anyways, we'll be sharing some time with Mark Ingram, but he also catches a lot of balls out of the backfield. So it's important to load up your team with people that are constantly getting touches. There's not as many shutdown corners in the NFL anymore, but depending on your schedule, if you're headed against a shutdown corner twice a year, it's hard to say that a receiver is going to be more valuable than a running back. But I feel pretty confident in mine. I picked Aaron Rodgers up as my quarterback, and I know there's been a lot of questions about the weapons that surround him, and ultimately I still believe that Aaron Rodgers, and I know a lot of people would agree with it, he's the best quarterback in the NFL.
And in fantasy, too.
And in fantasy. And he's
There's a
proven,
difference.
That's all that really matters
Yeah.
is how good you are in fantasy standpoint,
Yeah,
as opposed to.
yeah,
But he
totally.
is a gifted, talented athlete
Yeah.
in general.
And he's proven in the past that he can make it work without Jordy Nelson. So they still have Devontae Adams. They still have Randall Cobb as of now. We'll see how the addition of Jimmy Graham fits into that offense. But
Yeah, you got him too.
I did get Jimmy
Yeah.
Graham. Sorry about that, Brandon, but he already got Zach Ertz.
Yeah, but
he's
Brandon,
just referencing our last podcast. We give me crap for putting him on the
There we go. Kirby Yates getting that win. Padres win it 2-1
nice.
over the Mariners.
As for my draft, I am, I'm not totally in love with my team, but I think my team could do some damage. I feel like maybe I have some question marks at my second running back slot, but I'm pretty happy. I got Odell Beckham in the second round, which he fell to me, which I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of, but I honestly he's a huge talent.
Absolutely.
Coming off an injury, and I think his value kind of dropped a little bit there.
We'll now have a
And
run game now too, so he'll be able to get some more open space. But one thing I wanted to bring up with Brandon's team is, we talk about injury a lot in the NFL. With Brandon's team, I'm mostly worried about players that aren't going to finish the year because of suspension.
Domestic violence issues or
We have LaShawn McCoy, Adrian Peterson, Josh Gordon, Joe Mixon,
Basically the Cincinnati Bengals.
Ezekiel Elliott,
and the Rams defense.
and the
who,
Rams defense. So you're
you
good
know,
for about 5 suspensions.
a quarter of them.
As far as running backs go, all 4 of my running backs that I have on my roster have had a domestic violence charge against them. At least, McCoy's pending right now.
Oh, so maybe you'll get off. Maybe you'll go 3 for 4.
Well, technically, if we're talking about pending, he didn't actually do it. He just hired somebody.
Yeah,
So,
it's alleged at this
that's
point.
alleged right now. But I got Zach Ertz. He's a straight arrow, so that makes up for it. Russell Wilson,
I like how you went with the whitest guy after.
Russell Wilson, he's just he's a nice guy.
Yeah, and Jake Elliott.
I
He's
love
probably
Ciara.
the safest bet on that team.
Yeah, that's easily.
The
I don't know.
kicker.
Kickers are crazy.
Carson
Kickers can be crazy. Who knows?
Basically, they have a domestic violence or coming back from a knee injury.
Oh yeah, and Odell Beckham just signed that huge contract. What was it, $74 million over 4 years?
It's a huge contract.
Yeah, it's 5 years, $95 million.
Oh,
Yeah.
95.
Yeah.
Jeez.
It's a huge contract.
So he's clearly going to get hit with the injury bug. So it's basically it's the new Madden curse.
The
No, the Madden curse goes to who's even on Madden this year?
it's Antonio Brown, man.
Oh, James is gonna get screwed.
Did you want to give us your
Yeah.
fantasy?
So I like my team, and for whatever reason, we talked about it a little bit, but Yahoo is just haters. They fucking hated my team. Gave me a C-, the worst grade in the
I
draft.
think Brandon, you had a B, right? Yeah, Brandon had a pretty good.
Ryan got the only A. I'm set with my running backs: Todd Gurley, Dalvin Cook, Christian McCaffrey, Royce Freeman. I understand why they got a little bit upset with me because, as you said, like the way that their metrics work, I do only have one quarterback and one tight end. I don't have a lot of backup.
And that's stuff that you can fill out during the year. Yahoo looks at it from a standpoint, and I'm not sure if NFL's fantasy is like the NFL.com is the same. We've always done Yahoo, but their metrics are off projections from the beginning of the year. And for instance, last year I had an A in my draft as well. Aaron Rodgers goes down, and my projected points went to hell. I mean, I still finished second in our league, but they look at the overall projections. And obviously we have the 40 limit on transactions that you can have, but your roster right now is not what it's going to look like 6 weeks in. So it's always pending on, injuries and, and then, if there's a tight end or there's a quarterback that has a good week and nobody's in need, and you go in there and grab it. I mean, there's so many things that can happen. As long as you have running backs on your team who are workhorses, and then receivers on their team that are getting a high volume of passes thrown to them. Receivers can have a week where they have 6 points or 5 points, and the next week turn around and have 20. That's where the value in receivers is. It's the volume in which the ball is being thrown to them.
Yeah, and I like my wide receivers too. I got Juice Landry, bless him, over in Cleveland, and then Amari Cooper in Oakland. I know with Josh Gordon coming back to Cleveland, that could kind of tap into his time, and then with Eric Decker. Or not Eric Decker.
Michael Crabtree leaving.
Michael Crabtree leaving, and then who does Oakland have now?
Amari Cooper.
Jordy Nelson.
Jordy Nelson. There you go. Yeah. And Jordy Nelson could cut into his time a little bit, but
he's also getting older. I think Jordy Nelson's honestly a figment of what you see with Aaron Rodgers. I don't think that Jordy Nelson's a bad receiver by any means, but I think he flourished because he had the best quarterback in the NFL. With Amari Cooper, you've seen issues with drops, but ultimately he's going to be the go-to guy there. And then with Jarvis Landry, everybody forgets that he led the league in receptions last year on a team that struggled moving the ball down the field.
Oh, he's got hands.
Well, Jay Cutler was the quarterback. Yeah, Jay Cutler was the quarterback on that team last year. I mean, that says enough right there. To still lead the league in receptions and having Jay Cutler throwing you the ball, even if he's not putting up, 20 points a week or even 10 points a week, he's going to get receptions. And like I said, it's all about volume in the receiver position. How many balls are being thrown your direction? Yeah, exactly.
The game is volume.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also my sleeper pick that I kind of waited around for was Mike Williams, the Chargers Chargers wide receiver. I think that guy could have a huge season, especially
Absolutely.
Flourish in the red zone.
Well, and if you hear what Phillip Rivers is saying about Mike Williams coming out of training camp, he's exactly the reason why he's proving to be the reason they drafted him 7th overall, because he's a perfect complement to what Keenan Allen is. Keenan Allen, to me, he's still a top 5 receiver in this league. I know that we're on ESPN today. He's a 5'6", in some opinions, but he's still a top-rated receiver. But his game is possession, and Mike Williams has the ability to stretch the field, go down, and score touchdowns. And I think what you see with Phillip Rivers is that he's learning to turn Mike Williams into his Vincent Jackson, and that's something that he's been missing for years now. They thought they could get it from Michael Floyd. Michael Floyd was not, taking nothing away from him, but he was not Vincent Jackson. Now he's got that big body that can go up into the end zone and get some touchdowns. So I agree with you. I think that Mike Williams can have an amazing year. If it's not with volume of catches, it's going to be with touchdowns.
Yeah.
Especially with Hunter Henry being out.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And we've seen in the past years when the Chargers were still in San Diego, the different, how well like a big-bodied wide receiver did with Keenan Allen being a number 1 wide receiver, not necessarily getting locked down, but leaving a lot more room up the sidelines and up the field because he runs those short crossing routes that bring safeties down.
Absolutely.
So.
And I think a lot of misconception comes with Terrell Williams as being this, big-bodied guy that's going to go down the field. He's tall, but the dude is a slot receiver. He's a slot receiver that runs, streak routes, or he's an outside receiver that stretches the field because he's fast. All 3 of them complement each other very well. I think all three of them could potentially have value in fantasy this year. But I think that Dean's team, as much on paper that it might not look great right now, has one of the best upsides.
I appreciate you saying that, Ryan. That makes me feel really good inside.
Good. I'm
That
glad I could
that
help.
cheered me up. Do you guys have anyone on your team that you kind of felt is going to be your secret sleeper? I know we kind of held off on giving away too many secrets last week. Ryan also felt like I snubbed him, and I publicly apologize for the Royce Freeman pickup.
No, it's all good, man. Royce Freeman, I do think is going to be a stud, and I think for your team, that's definitely a secret sleeper there, and maybe not even as much of a secret. A couple guys that I look at on my team, seeing how Rashad Penny comes off of the injury, but then also Ronald Jones from Tampa Bay, the USC running back. He's already run a pro-style offense coming from USC. Looks like he's going to be the workhorse there in Tampa Bay. Looks like he might, push into that flex position for me at some point. So hopefully he shows out this year. We could have a hell of a year for running backs.
Yeah, I actually saw you pick him up, and he was one of the guys that I had starred to put in my queue to keep an eye on. So definitely, we'll see how he does throughout the season and see if he can be that workhorse like you're saying.
Shit, and I mean for Brandon as well, and I feel like saying this is like it hurts because I'm feeding into Brandon's addictions, but AP, man, don't sleep on Adrian Peterson. The dude still hasn't lost a step. He put it down for the Cardinals last year. They lost the Redskins lost Darius Geis. It looks like Adrian Peterson can come in and potentially be, a 3-down back. We'll see how it looks, but that could be a huge steal for Brandon as well. Like I said, I don't want to feed the addiction because I know,
He
I know
got him in his work league too.
Brandon.
Well, I had
And
to pick him up in my work league. There was just nobody available.
I don't know if we've ever been in a fantasy league where Brandon does not have Adrian Peterson.
But we have. There was a year that somebody stole him from me and I couldn't get him.
He's like, I'll trade you anything and cash.
What do you want?
I'll trade you all the money that you could win in fantasy for Adrian Peterson.
Oh my God.
My only thing though is going into looking at Jets wide receivers and that whole offense. Their schedule is horrible. So they start off with that Thursday night game, and then they play They play the Monday game, then they play a Sunday game, then they play a Thursday game. So that's 3 games.
The NFL sucks at scheduling.
Really short schedule.
Well, and you have, there's a huge question mark there with quarterback. I mean, it looks like Darnold's going to get the nod.
But I think you got to throw Bridgewater in there first just to let the kid get his feet wet.
Darnold's looked good, though, man.
But that's 3 professional games in a short amount of time.
Yeah, man. I mean,
he doesn't have a lot of time to sit there and watch game film and prep for week to week. Like, you need those.
I agree. I agree with where you come from because we live in a day and age where we want to prep people or at least in the NFL, for success. He's looked the best, and he's their long-term plan, and they're still figuring out what they're doing at wide receiver. They're still figuring out what they're doing at running back. You're not wrong about Teddy Bridgewater. The signing in general just doesn't make sense to me. Like, the reason that they went after him, I don't know if they were worried that they're not going to get Sam Darnold, but ultimately I don't think Bridgewater is going to be on that team at the trade deadline. So
I don't think so either, and that's also why I think that they should let him get some playing time in early. So
see what his trade value is. I think his trade value now, you run a risk with that because if he goes out there and plays poorly, he loses trade value. If he goes out, or if he doesn't go out there, and Sam Darnold does whatever he does, whether he plays good or bad, he still has his value as of right now. And I think that's a huge question mark from a GM standpoint. Like, do you play the risk? Do you, put Bridgewater on a team that doesn't have a ton of weapons? Austin Seferian-Jenkins is good when he's healthy. Anderson's he showed that he could be at least a good wide receiver last year. But there's not a lot going on in that team as far as offensive line, as far as key outside weapons. So I would look for Darnold to get the nod in week 1 just because of the way he's played in the preseason. But, it's, again, like you bring up a very, very valid point. And I'm sure that the GM for the the Jets and the head coach for the Jets are up all night thinking about the same thing because it's tough. And the lifespan of players in the NFL is so short. I've never understood this, draft a player to ease him into a position. I mean, from a quarterback, I get playing, like sitting for a couple weeks until they feel confident to let you in or until the other guy messes up. But you see it in all these positions now, and it's, average lifespan of an NFL player is 3 years. And, Baker Mayfield allegedly, sitting out most of this year behind Tyrod Taylor, you're a third of his career essentially is gone.
Yeah, and that could be another team that could be looking to move a QB at the trade deadline, or trying to shop him. I definitely agree with you. I think that there needs to be some sort of coaching, whether it be you have a veteran QB that will take a backseat role to kind of coach these guys week to week. I think that's definitely beneficial. And if you don't have that, I'm okay with them sitting out a couple games. Like you look at Carson Wentz did that, and he came out just fine.
Deshaun Watson was supposed to sit out a couple weeks until Tom Savage played terribly. No, the idea makes sense. Ease them into it, let them get involved in the game situations before you set them out there.
Well, it's really more of like the prep work week to week.
Absolutely, you see
the
that
film study.
Yeah,
That's
see
the hardest part.
how the game develops. You watch from the sideline how an NFL game goes over. And then aside from that, talking about rookie quarterbacks, I mean, props to you guys with all your Baker Mayfield talk. He has looked phenomenal in this preseason. The tight throws, the windows, moving up in the pocket, being able to create time.
The athleticism of being able to throw across your body on the run.
I mean, like I said, and I made this comparison at work the other day, and before you guys roast me, he's essentially the same quarterback as Tim Tebow was. Obviously, he has a better arm, but coming out, everybody knocked the intangibles of Tim Tebow, and they knocked the intangibles of Baker Mayfield. But the dude wins.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
There's something about just having that win factor.
I mean,
Yeah,
say
just
what you
having
want
that
about Tim
mentality.
Tebow as a quarterback, he won more games than he lost. And I'm not comparing the talent level. I think Baker Mayfield's way better, but you see the same knocks. Like, hey, he has an unorthodox delivery, or he doesn't know how to run a pro-style offense. He hasn't taken a snap under center. There's so many negatives that you can take, but ultimately, at the end of the day, you need a guy that can win games. And however they do that, that's the most important factor.
That's very true.
I know you're not offended because you're a big Tebow guy.
I wasn't a huge Tebow
I
guy.
remember you were a
wasn't
Tebow
big
guy.
I was a huge Tebow in college guy, and I definitely think that, given the right offense and given the right opportunities, I think Tebow could have been a great NFL QB.
I mean, he won a playoff game. That's more to say than a lot of,
That's true.
NFL quarterbacks in overtime.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. But the one thing I want to touch on before, Ryan, we get to you with the college football stuff is the Odell Beckham Jr. contract. I know we mentioned how much it was. In my opinion, I don't think he's worth that.
I think we all agree on that.
Yeah.
You don't?
I've prepared a little bit of something that I wanted to share with you guys, and it's not.
And coming to the stand is going to be Ryan with his new speech on Odell Beckham
So
Jr.
it's
break out the knee pad.
He has done phenomenal since his career started.
Okay. So my point that I want to bring up with Odell Beckham is that he has the ability. I'm not saying he's the best, but he has the ability to be the best receiver in the NFL.
I agree with you,
And
but he has Eli Manning throwing him the ball. Sorry,
Eli Manning's not a terrible
Sorry,
quarterback.
I interrupted you.
I mean, he's not the best, but he puts up numbers. You can't fault that.
Yeah.
But so he's got a very unique skill set, unprecedented in this day and age. He's not the biggest guy, but he creates space. He's faster than Antonio Brown. He moves better than Julio Jones. He catches better than most. Whether or not he can play to that ability is still yet to be seen. You have the off-the-field issues that he's had. You've had the on-the-field issues that he's had. So I don't think currently that he should be making more money than Antonio Brown. No, I don't think he deserves this massive contract. With the influx of, contract money that you start to see, it makes sense. And when you break down the deal, it's $60 million guaranteed for the first 3 years. there's an opt-out after that 3rd year. So the deal makes sense for the Giants.
Yeah,
The
that's
2
true.
extra years are on them if, he's playing well. I don't like paying the player that has had the issues that he's had. You saw the being in the room with the hooker or wherever she was and the cocaine. When you pay somebody this much money, you expect them to be the face of your franchise, not from just a team, but from a community standpoint.
Well, not only that, but it's like he had that whole fight with the kicker net last year. He went
Yep.
after Josh Norman.
So that's what I mean.
know,
Like, we've seen flashes of greatness, and we've also seen flashes of immaturity. You've seen the headbutting with Norman. You've seen the headbutting with the net. He's a weird dude.
And I like players like that in the sense of I like players that wear their emotions on their sleeve.
And it's been a
that
thing
go
with
add it-
receivers
after it.
forever.
They add an element to the game.
Yeah, exactly. But there's a certain point where you cross that barrier and you're just being a baby.
Yeah.
Oh,
So I just wanted that part to be heard. I think that he has the ability to
Yeah.
earn this contract. I mean, his first 3 years alone, he's top 5. He had 30 touchdowns or 30 more than 30 touchdowns in his first 3 years. He eclipsed 1,000 yards in each of those seasons. He went out there on the freaking boat before the playoff game and then dropped 3 passes in a playoff game, which they lost. So,
You're not Josh Gordon. You can't be all high on drugs
Yeah.
and hungover.
I
drunk.
think you look at players like DeAndre Hopkins, Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, Julio Jones, and you can throw Keenan Allen in that mix too as well because I think he's an elite receiver. And he has the ability to be better than all of them. It's whether or not he shows up and he's mentally there. The dude got on a podium and said that he's not mentally here. How can you pay a guy that can say it publicly he's not mentally there? So he has to earn it. That's my only thing. This could be a huge gamble for the Giants, but he has to earn it.
I guess the big question for me is, would any wide receiver be worth that contract to you?
Like I said, the way that the caps has been increasing, it makes sense. You'll start to see it more often. Mike Evans signed a massive contract this offseason, paying him, I think, $15-16 million a year.
What's the cap at now, though? I mean, I'd have a problem paying my star wide receiver 20% of our cap, which if it's I think is at 120 or
Well,
something
it's
like
all
that.
relevant on what you think is most produced to your team. What's your element of winning? If your element of winning is, stretching the field, and the dude, I mean, he takes on double teams, makes catches. Like, you've seen the flashes of greatness. But, again, if you're paying him that much money, if you're paying him 20% of your salary cap, he's the face of your franchise. He's your go-to player. I don't think that's who he is right now. Eli Manning might not be the best quarterback, but he is still the face of that franchise.
Hey, my only 2 knocks on it are Eli Manning. He's obviously on his way out from being that quarterback, or that starting quarterback. They have no contingency plan on who's going to replace Eli Manning. And then the last thing is Odell Beckham Jr.'s work ethic is just not there. Like, you see him in practice or on all these videos. Of course, the media just shows you what you want to see. They're not showing us everything that he's doing in practice, but everything that they show, he's doing one-handed catches. He's doing 360s into the end zone.
It's
making these
flashy plays that you don't
exactly.
need.
And that is also a skill, because in the game, you might have to contort your body a certain way to reach, and he has practiced those one-handed grabs, so that's good. But at the same time, it's you want to see him working on his footwork, creating space, not necessarily catching the ball, but just running clean, crisp routes. And I think that's the thing with, Keenan Allen, like you said, as him being in that talk for one of the, top wide receivers, because he runs good, clean routes.
And his work ethic.
His work ethic is there. He, puts his nose to the grind. He gets out there. And in reality, Keenan Allen's kind of why Phillip Rivers is still being able to continue his career.
Absolutely.
Because you have a good wide receiver and someone else that you can, bank off of and you can hope for to be your
go-to guy.
Exactly, your go-to guy. It extends their career, and I think Odell Beckham Jr., I don't think he was worth the money. I think
well, and I think ultimately I mean, if we're talking about just the money, he shouldn't be making more money than Antonio Brown. That alone tells you why this contract doesn't make sense. But with his ability, with having a new head coach and Pat Schumer, give the team some credit. by going after and getting a tough-nosed guy. McAdoo was a terrible head coach.
Yeah, I would
He
agree.
had zero control over that team. You saw lash out by, Eli Apple. You saw, I can't remember what, Landon Collins, the safety, getting in the mix of things with those, some of the players on the defense. There was no control over that team last year. If Pat Schumer can come in, get control over his players, I don't mind the animation during the game, but it has to be within the realm of the game. You have to be able to play the game, and then you can be as goofy as you want. You don't need to go out there and headbutt people while you're playing. You don't need to go out there, kick freaking nets so they smack you in the face. It all depends on the player who comes out. This could be a huge deal for the Giants if they can get control over him. But he's been there for 4 years, and they have yet to do so. So we'll see what Pat Schumer can do. I'm on the side of you guys where the money, he's worth a huge contract, but he's not worth being paid the most money.
He's a top 5 receiver in the league, arguably. Wouldn't you say?
I wouldn't say arguably. I think
I would
that
say
he has the most talent.
You could argue for top 3. Maybe that would
But
be more
he's
of
in that top 5 is what I'm saying.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, I would say that him and Antonio, like I said, he has the ability to be better than Antonio Brown. The difference is Antonio Brown has the work ethic, has the drive, and it produces on the field. Antonio Brown's also had injury concerns. Antonio Brown's also older. We forget that he came around a few years later in his career. By the time this contract's over, Odell Beckham's still going to be, if within the first 3 years anyways, is still going to be 28 years old in the prime of his career. So it makes sense from, if they feel like they have control over him, but from what we've seen as fans, it doesn't.
Yeah. But, Ryan, you kind of want to get into this college football thing. I know you were telling us a little bit earlier about, Clemson's having a QB battle over there, and then we had mentioned JT Daniels a couple podcasts ago about being the USC's starting quarterback, true freshman.
Yeah.
You want to take us into this Clemson battle? What's going on?
Absolutely. So Kelly Bryant actually got the nod as the Week 1 starter for Clemson, and he came out last year and he performed very well. This guy, Trevor Lawrence, who is a true freshman as well, he was the top-rated quarterback in all of, top-rated player in all of college football coming in. Keep your ears open for this guy because he is a stud. If Kelly Bryant takes one step back, this dude's going to be right there. He has mobility similar to an Aaron Rodgers. He's got a cannon like a Peyton Manning. I mean, all of the intangibles that you need, height. It's a different quarterback that Clemson has ever seen. I understand that, Bryant has earned the starting spot by being where he put that team last year. But like I said, if he takes a step back at all this year, look out for this guy because he's phenomenal. And then JT Daniels coming out of USC actually got the nod this, knowing that he's going to be the starting quarterback, true freshman. Fun fact about this guy, he came out of high school a year early. So he is still 18 years old.
And he's a genius to graduate early. No, I'm just kidding. No,
I'm joking. But like he, from my understanding, he's worked with the best of the best quarterbacks. I was listening to Jordan Palmer on a separate podcast, who has worked with every USC quarterback in the last decade, from Matt Leinart to Mark Sanchez, Matt Castle, Sam Darnold, and he says this guy is by far better than any quarterback that USC has ever had. So it should be exciting to watch. I know USC doesn't put up a lot of numbers statistically, so I don't know if I'd put him quite on a Heisman watch. But the fact that this dude is where he's at right now, being an 18-year-old, coming in, getting the start as a true freshman for USC, a lot of pressure, but I think the dude's up for the challenge. I was watching him with some, just some practice film, and he's phenomenal. I mean, it's not just the arm strength and the accuracy, it's his mental. He was awarded Gatorade Player of the Year last year, and Deshaun Watson was also actually the guy that, called him on the phone, did the FaceTime with him. And for most high school people, it's like, oh my gosh, Deshaun Watson, this dude's an NFL quarterback. And it's somebody that he's worked with since he was a freshman in high school. They've worked together numerously. So the amount of people that this young man has surrounded himself with to be in the position that he's at, look for this guy in a few years to be the number 1 overall pick.
As we were saying earlier, we're watching the Padres, beat the Seattle Mariners 2-1. Luis Urias got called up. He had I would say a decent outing. Obviously, didn't get that first career hit. The first play
should have had it.
Should have had it. The pitcher didn't kick it and redirect it for an easy out. But the first play of the game, he had an amazing, diving stop, threw the guy out at first. Incredible range on that kid. That was amazing. Even a pop up that went to shallow right field. He didn't make the catch, but he was definitely there to make the catch.
Mm-hmm.
If
So
Reyes didn't
he
call him off.
hustles for
Yeah,
plays.
he hustles quick, looks really good out there. The Padres' future looks bright. I don't
That's
know.
right.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys see the Padres trying to bring up anyone else from their farm system, trying to bring up some of these arms maybe.
Mejia's for sure going to get a call up at some point. I think.
Where do you think he's going to play?
That's a great question. I think maybe him and Hedges will get a timeshare, but I don't think that's really would be best for
Do you think
Mejia.
that they'll try to find a hole or a position for him in the outfield?
They could. I don't. The team has such a logjam problem at almost every position right now. Other than actually, now that you have Urias up, I guess you get third base, but I don't even know if he has played any third base.
I mean, we're just throwing positions out.
Yeah,
for
we're just
everybody
throwing
lately.
positions out right now.
speculate.
Hey,
Honestly,
Myers,
maybe
we're
give-
going to have you play second base for the rest of the year.
maybe try Mejia out at first. I don't know. They said they were going to call him up, so that's the only reason why I say that.
Yeah, no, I've heard the same thing. I was just curious. To me, I feel like we definitely have 2 players on our roster right now with Renfroe and Myers who deserve to be in the outfield. Myers, when healthy, he's proven to be, our best bat. I mean, say what you want about Hosmer, but his bat hasn't been there this year as well as we thought it'd be. So when healthy, and Renfroe's proven to be clutch. I think that the one spot you look at is the position that's been in limbo all year. Franmil Reyes has been out there, Franchi Cordero, Manuel Margot.
Margot's been playing center pretty much the whole year.
Yeah, he was hurt a little bit at the beginning of the year here and
so
there.
it's like him and Cordero and Jankowski been kind of rotating through center.
Yeah. I mean, Jankowski, I have the utmost respect for that guy as a
I like
player. I really
Jankowski.
do, too. I just don't think that he's going to be
A starter.
No.
He's just hard to have.
He's
to
not a
be
starter. He's
like
a-
a top
he's
tier
just
guy.
not he does so many things right. I mean, the dude plays harder than anybody else on the field. So I don't want to say anything negative about him, but he doesn't have a wow factor.
I would
He's
agree.
got
Even though
some
he did-
insane speed.
He has a great read on the ball, insane speed. He led off the game tonight with a
Yeah.
first pitch home
If he
run.
doesn't
That's
get
what-
that, we are going to extras.
No,
Yeah.
it's so hard because I have nothing bad to say about the guy. He's a phenomenal.
You just don't see the upside. Am I reading that?
Yeah, it's not just that. It's that when you look at players like Mejia who have potentially star value,
Yeah,
Well, it's
superstar
just hard-
value.
could be a superstar.
It's hard to take consistency on a mediocre team.
Yeah,
No,
You know, it's not like he's not a stud out there. He's not doing anything extra to make us win games. He's consistent. So on a
and
good
he hustles.
team, like on a good team, you would say, man, that guy's a potential all-star. He's doing really well. But on a mediocre team, doing consistent, it's just like, oh, he's day in day out kind of guy.
Yeah. I mean,
that's
I
hard.
can see them trying to find a position for him in the outfield, Mejia for starters, just because we are in a situation where we're not contending, so they don't mind subbing some bats out here and there. I think Margot's locked up center field. As long as he's healthy, he's proven to cover more ground than anybody else out there. So I think that you'll see him start to take some reps away from Renfroe or Franmil Reyes. And Franmil Reyes he's shown some glimpses. I
he had
just
two
don't
home runs in that Dodger series.
Yeah, I don't like the unathleticism.
Gosh,
It's hard
we
to
saw
watch in
him
the
go
outfield.
back on a ball earlier in right field, and he totally missed
It's
it.
just, he's a guy that just belongs in the American League. He can
So-
swing
Oh
it.
yeah.
So it was a ball that he was going back, and it was on the warning track, and he jumped up, missed it, ran into the wall, fell down, and both Brandon and I just looked at each other and were like, "You fat bitch."
Yeah, man. It's so hard because he has
It's
such a good
terrible.
bat, but like he has no business.
Literally
playing
the
our
same
outfield.
words too came
It,
to
it was
mind.
literally the same time, just like, "You fat bitch." I can't believe you missed that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
rough. So I can see them finding a position for him. And, you know, if Myers continues to play third base and that's the goal for them long term, fantastic. That's great.
They're gonna have some real problems coming up.
Yeah, and
It is almost like they have to move Will Myers to third now.
Well, it's almost like they have to trade him, move him. Like
yeah, they have
Yeah,
to get.
well,
yeah,
it's
they
like
have to
you,
get
you
him
have
on.
all these
yeah.
guys. You're like, God, what am I gonna do with you know, if you have these young talents? You can't just trade them. I mean,
No.
unless you want to trade them for frontline starters, but you have all your starting pitchers coming up through the minors, so you don't even know what you have.
I think we're getting towards the end of the year, and I can comfortably say, you know, I've been in limbo with this all year that Hosmer signing was just a mistake. I mean, from top to bottom, I mean, we know that he's an every other year kind of player. Nobody's denied the level of commitment that he has, and you know, he's won a World Series. He's a veteran guy that people can look up to, but he just put a giant hole in our outfield by moving Myers back to the outfield. Now moving him back to third. I mean,
it created a logjam.
it did. It just and it was unnecessary. And you know, no disrespect to Hosmer as a player. I think that he is an all-star caliber player. I just think that, you know, they've been talking so much about growing from within that it was so unnecessary.
I think it was just that signing was a year or two earlier than when they needed to make the big signing.
Yeah, and figure out what you need.
Yeah.
I mean, if you
Yeah,
look
don't
at a
just
team like the
reach.
Cubs and what they did, you know, they drafted Chris Bryant. They traded for Anthony Rizzo. They brought up Baez. They have Addison Russell. You know, they had all these players. Then they go sign a player like Jason Hayward. Then they go sign a player like John Lester. You figure out the pieces that you need after you solidify the positions that you have. And I think that that's something that the Padres missed on huge by signing Eric Hosmer. Like Brandon just said, it was too early.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree.
And now we're going to be handicapped to that contract for the next 7 years?
I will say we're only a year in, so I do want to pump the brakes a little bit, but it doesn't look good. I would say that.
Well, and then even the acquisition, I mean, I understand Mejia for what we gave, Brad Hand and Adam Simber.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that we got a top 5 prospect out of that's huge, but it created another logjam. He's an outfielder and a catcher. What do we have? We have the best defending catcher whose bat has actually come around towards the end of the year. All love to Austin Hedges. But now we have more outfielders than we know what to do with. I mean, who wasn't excited when Franchi Cordero had the longest home run for the first half of the season?
I think he still has the
Is
record.
it still the longest?
I think it's still the longest.
Yeah.
He just missed 500 foot. I don't think I've ever seen one live before. That was crazy.
Yeah. I mean, and then we got Manuel Margot, who's been one of our top prospects and now, you know, our best defending outfielder. The future looks bright, but there's so many question marks. It's hard for me to get excited when we have so many question marks.
Well, I think Urias is definitely a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
You look at the team. What I look at I was just talking to Dean about this earlier. This team gets a lot of they hit a lot of solo home runs. And lately their bats they've been getting a lot of hits, but they're all still solo home runs, so they're still losing these games. So it seems like they just need to learn how to draw more walks, which they're always in the bottom of the league in on-base percentage, and they're always in the bottom of the league in batting average. They're never like leading the league in home runs, but they're usually, you know, top 20, which means they're better than 10 other teams. And
Top 20. No, I think like you said, yours is definitely a step in the right direction. You know, I'll be excited when Tatis gets there. You know, if they figure out where to put Mejia, I'll be excited when he gets there. But I'm excited to see what they do in the offseason because there are definitely some moves that they need to make, and they need to figure out this damn rotation.
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up too. We're talking about how they're bringing up these infielders, outfielders, these positional players, and it's moving in the right step. But there's still a lot of building to go on. Next season, who are they filling out in that rotation? Who are they trying to keep? Where are they going to place these players? I really don't think that there's anyone on the team right now besides maybe like Luke Casey that I would be upset if they tried to move. Obviously, not any of their prospects. I mean, people that are up currently now or in the bullpen.
I mean, I could see Jacob Nix making a push for the rotation. So I don't know if I want to sell off any of those pieces yet, unless they're getting a frontline starter out of it.
That's what I mean. Yeah,
So-
if you're getting like an ace.
So if you have a chance
Luke-
to get
yeah.
like Jacob DeGrom or something like that, I wouldn't. I would be fine trading any of those young guys.
Honestly, like next year we have people that aren't coming off injury. Obviously, we have Colin Ray and Lamet, who are both going to be coming off injury next year. The only two guys guaranteed a spot in our rotation are Lucchesi and Lauer. I mean, Nick's looked phenomenal tonight, so maybe he's going to be one of those guys. But other than that, you have a bunch of young guys, and I'm not taking anything away from young guys. You look at the Colorado Rockies, they got a young roster. They've given opportunities to all of their prospects, and they're flourishing this year. They're, like 2 games out of first place in the division? I mean, there's a lot to be said to giving people opportunities, but it's who are we going to give the opportunities to that's the biggest question. Does Lamet come back on time to be able to start next season? Who knows? It's supposed to be 12-month recovery.
Yeah, and Colin Ray has not come back very hot. He has terrible numbers.
Yeah, he's already back in the minors. It just doesn't look good.
Yeah.
And
there's
and
some other players that
what's going on with the guy we picked up, Chase Headley's horrendous contract too? I know he's down in the minors. I think he's getting lit up too. Brian Mitchell. Remember Brian Mitchell? And
that's the guy they wanted for such a long time, and he played awfully.
Oh, and so he's like one of those guys who like, well, did you just take on $13 million in contract for a guy that's not going to be starting for you? So you got to think about him long term. I don't even know if they have a minor league option still on him, unless they want to try to clear him through waivers, which somebody I'm sure will take a flyer on him.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I thought that was interesting was the Padres, shut down Clayton Richards. He's going to have minor knee surgery, probably just get it scoped or
On
whatever.
both knees.
On both knees.
You're getting old, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I texted Dean and Ryan. I was like, hey, Clayton Richards like a 60-year-old man.
He's getting up
He's
there.
gotta-
He can't lose any off his fastball. It's already slow enough.
I know. You guys see them trying to move him to like a bullpen spot?
I mean, I would love to see that, but I don't. I mean, I like him for his leadership. I don't think I like him necessarily for his skill set. I think.
I don't have a whole lot of great things to say about. He's a mediocre pitcher.
Yeah, that's
would
kind of
agree.
how I think we all would agree. But I think
He was our ace this year too, and that's what's really upsetting.
I think he's just a veteran presence that you need, and I think that's his true value on the team. Other than that, you're not looking at him as a guy you necessarily
Honestly,
want to march out there.
He's a guy that you have on like a Yankees or Red Sox team that when you're up 11 or nothing, you can be like, hey, go eat up.
Well,
3
we already got
innings.
Phil Hughes, and we already got.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, he's played better than I thought he would this year. But like, he
Clayton
was
Richard?
our ace.
Yeah.
Yes, he was our ace. He started game.
Well, I
1.
think Lamet would have probably been our ace if he didn't go down in spring training.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, but like we said, or Ryan, you said, Luke Casey, he's had 20 starts, 3.74 ERA, and a 9.6 K/9.
Yeah,
those are
he's
good
been
numbers.
good.
Those are
Luke
solid.
Casey's a stud.
He came
yeah,
out and just.
He's been good. I mean, his numbers have kind of dipped off a little bit recently, but I mean, you can't just stay on fire all season.
No, and I mean, he's a rookie. Having a 3.7 ERA
Yeah.
is not bad. And
Yeah, you'll
honestly,
take it.
on better teams, that's a really good ERA. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
number 3, number 4 starter.
Well,
you
plus
know.
he's a young guy. He was part of that 2016 draft.
Yeah,
class.
really young.
He's definitely like
He's got a great
yeah
career
even
ahead of him. Yeah.
I don't hate Lauer. I know he hasn't been getting as much love as Lucchesi, but
Well, the Padres have they're really into those ground ball pitchers. We were talking about it earlier. Jacob Nix, you got Clayton Richards, you got
It makes
Perdomo,
sense in our
you got-
park. I mean, we're not a big home run park. You have that nasty marine layer that pushes a lot of those balls. Although we do have the longest home run in baseball, which doesn't make a ton of sense to me.
But that was in Arizona.
Even again, so yeah, we're not a huge home
So-
run hitting park.
Makes more sense now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So makes
Well, they got rid
perfect
of the
sense.
humidor, but yeah.
It makes sense for them to go after ground ball, pitchers. But we talk about them having ground ball pitchers, yet we don't have a third baseman.
Yeah, you got to put a good defense on
That's-
the field if you're going to have.
That's why I picked up Galvis. So that's why they gave up a young, talented prospect and that guy's been killing it too. The guy who just traded to
Yeah,
the Phillies.
Galvis is having a. Oh, you mean the guy we drafted? I thought you
No,
were
the
talking
guy
about
the
Galvis.
guy we traded for Galvis. So it's kind of bittersweet, even though Galvis is
Oh,
having a
yeah.
great year for us on a
What was it
one-year
again?
rental. Eniel De Santos, and his ERA is like under 1 for the Phillies.
Sounds like a UFC.
Yeah,
fighter.
he's basically gonna get a call up probably this month.
Oh, he hasn't made.
No, he's
Oh.
still in AAA, but
Oh, so current season, it's a better option.
well, yeah, but if you gave up the guy you're gonna have,
We
5,
only
6 years of
care
control.
about the guys that are on the Padres right now,
Well, you should care about the organization as a whole because that's
right
where
at
the
this
direction.
moment.
No, right now all I care is about what's on the field.
I think you guys need a dose of optimism. You guys both are very down on the team.
I don't think that any Padre fan should be optimistic as of right now. I mean, we talk like you hear all this talk about how we have the best minor league system, which is phenomenal. That's great. But that doesn't always turn into wins in Major League Baseball. It's the ability to move these people up at the right time, in the right position, allowing them to succeed. Having pitchers that have ground ball outs and, having a constant flux of who's playing what position is not good for young pitchers. So there's optimism with the talent level that we have in the minor leagues, but there's not optimism with the organization where we are at the major league. And that's the most important part. So if, like I said, Will Myers gets moved to third, Urias starts off at second, Hosmer at third, and they can figure out what to do in the outfield and put a decent defense out there, then we can start thinking optimistically. But having as many question marks as we do at the top trickles down all the way through the minor league system.
And as much as we say we have a log jam at certain places, nobody's a proven player, so
Yeah, exactly.
you can't really say we're optimistic in the sense of, well, this guy's definitely going to be the day one starter.
Yeah, we don't have 4 all-stars that are lined up in the outfield not knowing where to put them. We have, a good outfielder with a mediocre bat and Manuel Margot. We have a huge arm in right field with Hunter Renfroe, who has a clutch bat who hits for low average, and then Will Myers, who when healthy can be an all-star caliber player. But again, that's more question marks that we have. So I'm optimistic about the talent. I'm not optimistic about where the franchise is at the top.
I think just as a fan, you should just be optimistic about your team in general, though.
Sorry, man.
I know it's
San
hard.
Diego's
No, I would say
But-
I'm optimistic because they're my team. But
Yeah,
if
you
I'm
want-
going
you
to
want the-
analyze it with you guys, then
I just didn't think that we would be on pace to lose 100 games this year. That's my
no.
that's my
They've
biggest knock.
definitely underachieved this year. There's no
And
doubt.
I think that you talk about the Lakers turning it around, winning 20 more games. It's the same thing with the Padres. We are worse this year than we were last year, with the addition of Eric Hosmer, like we've brought up. If you have a huge talent pool in the minor leagues, you should start to see at least a slight progression. So it's hard to have optimism when we're worse than we were last year.
No, certainly. I just think, like I said,
I would say overall, if I'm not talking to Padre fans, I'm extremely optimistic about the team. But you guys
Love
are
the
Padre fans, so I can be more nitpicky about what I
Yeah, but we're
feel-
analyzing a
what I-
sport right now.
Yeah, what I see in the future. I'm 100% on board, optimistic about the Padres' future. I think that our
I think they're
minor
in the
league
right
system,
direction.
They're in the right direction. They have the steps to build, and they're moving in. They're moving forward.
I just don't. The more I look at it, I don't think it's going to be as quick as we have perceived. I think some of the pitchers like Quintrell, and Logan Allen, and there's a third guy.
Mackenzie Gore.
Well, Mackenzie Gore, obviously, but he is another like 19, 20-year-old player.
Yeah,
I
he's
still
got a
think
couple more years.
2020 we'll start to see a lot of progressions, but like in
Yeah,
order
I don't
for us
think 2020 is going to be the year that we're making a
playoff run or
pennant
anything.
push or like a playoff
Yeah.
push. 2020 is going to be the year that we're turning around, and it's
Yeah.
going to be the year we start getting excited.
and I hope that's when they figure it out, But for next year, figure out who we got in the rotation. Start figuring out what you want to do with Will Myers. I think those are the progressions I want to see. I'm fine if we lose more games this year than we did last year if we figure out in the offseason what we're doing with our log jams. But ultimately, like I said, with the addition of Eric Hosmer, it just seems like they're going blind-eyed into a bunch of decisions where they're trying to think about what's best for the team right now when we know we have a huge talent pool coming up. It's stuff that you've seen with the Braves, with the Cubs, with the Houston Astros. They didn't have this problem. And for us to have the amount of talent that we do, I don't think we should be having this problem either.
Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely see. I'm still on board with the Padres 2020. I think that's the year that we're going to start turning things around. But like you said, Ryan, there's a lot of question marks on what they're going to do and what the organization does with, certain players and certain pieces. Let's start wrapping it up here. I have our stat of the day this week, if you guys are ready for that.
Stat of the day, dabba-dooba-doo, stat of the day, dat of the day. Here comes that what? Stat of the day. Bop!
Stat of the day.
So I went golf because, the PGA Tour Championship is coming up next month.
Gonna get the
We're
gold jacket.
kind of avid golfers, maybe not so good, but yeah, go the gold jacket, green jacket, whatever the fuck. We talked about on our last podcast the Northern Trust PGA Tour was going on. Bryson DeChambeau won that one. Next up is the Dell and BMW championships. Then we have the Tour Championship. But my stat of the day was the average golf ball has 336 dimples.
336.
Yeah.
And that thing's so small, too.
Are those Top Flight? Those Callaway?
It's just as average. I don't know. Probably, I don't know, Titleist.
Well, is there restrictions on how many dimples you're allowed to have on the ball?
I think that,
I don't know.
I can't remember exactly what it is.
Or do you use a PGA Tour specific
You have to have
ball?
at least one.
I just like the neon orange ones because I'm blind and I can see them.
Yeah, except for that time we were at Mission Bay and you allegedly hit that car.
That was not an orange one. That was a blue one.
Oh, was it?
That was a blue one.
God, that was my car.
Allegedly.
No, just-
That was hilarious. But yeah, that's a lot of
336.
dimples on a
Wow.
ball.
Small that ball
I
is,
know, that's
too.
what I'm saying. That's a lot of dimples for one little small ball.
Damn, dude.
That's insane.
She got cakes, too?
If I were to guess, it would have probably been like 150. So I probably would have guessed like half of that.
Well, it makes sense now why those guys get so much spin on the ball and why it rolls so well.
Yeah, dude.
It's so many little divots in there that get
Yeah.
traction. Dude, you're just cracking yourself up at that joke, aren't you? Jesus. Oh, man. Oh, well, all right. I guess we should wrap it up. We're a little bit in. Again, you can follow us on Twitter at the number 3amigos_and_a_pod. We're hosted on Podbean now, 3amigosandapodcast.podbean.com. iTunes, we're on Google Play Music. We're on Spotify. We're on Podcast Addict. Our website is produced by WordPress, 3amigosandapodcast.wordpress.com. And, of course, you can always email us, 3amigosandapodcast@gmail.com. Coming up with the fantasy football season starting off, obviously we'll keep you guys updated and the moves that we're doing. Also, we're going to potentially do a pick'em league with a run your pool where you pick winners week to week. So if you're interested in that, send us an email, 3amigosandapodcast@gmail.com. Again, guys, thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.